You're watching CoastLife with Leah Rizzo and Charlie Sakaitis.
Dun, 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 dun,
I didn't know this is how we were opening. This was a surprise to me too.
It was a surprise to me as well, you know, a game time decision.
The moment hit you and you went with it.
But yes, those are the wedding bells, the march of the bride down the aisle. We are talking weddings, but sort of an untraditional twist on the proposal itself. It seems like there has been a slight uptick in women getting down on one knee and proposing to their man.
And let's be clear, it's not a major uptick, but it is a little bit of a shift, and we wanted to talk about it today.
Yeah, so this survey specifically really only asked 21 women, so it is a small sample size.
21 women who had done
proposed,
this, though.
yes.
So it's specifically asking those who've gone through this process.
And overall, it seemed like the experience was pretty positive. You know, most of the time, their man said yes, happily ever after, all of that. I did want to get your opinion, Charlie, on how you feel about this, because I have genuinely heard mixed reviews from men that I know.
A couple different thoughts right off the top here, right off my head. If it's a proposal because he hasn't been proposing and you've been wanting it to happen, you might want to be careful because there might be a reason that the proposal hasn't happened. They might not be where you are.
Sure.
However, if you guys have had those kinds of discussions, if it's clearly heading towards marriage, if this is something that the woman is excited to try or do to have it be something different, if she wants to take a little bit of control or ownership over that moment so it goes down the way she wants it to go down, then I think it's great. But as in all things, some communication. If it comes as a total surprise out of left field, whether that's the man or the woman, that's where you start to get in a little trouble, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do think it's worth asking that question too, as well. If you are a woman to your partner, ask him how he feels about that, because if he's not on board with the idea, then it's going to be tricky if you go ahead and pop the question and he wants to be the one that does that. Personally, I've always thought it's kind of a power play. I think it's cool when women propose to their fiance. I think, I guess technically my mom proposed to my dad. They were in like a little dive bar and she was like, "How do you feel about getting married?" And he was like, "Yeah, all right." And
yeah, we could do that.
Okay. And then like the next day she was like, "You remember what we talked about last night?" And he was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "You still on board?" And he was like,
Still
"Yeah,
good.
still into it."
Thumbs up.
And so I'm like, it doesn't have to be this big over that. I think like there's so much pressure on doing the proposal and doing it right.
Well, so I mean, that's the thing. I know that some guys won't feel comfortable with this, but honestly, fellas, it just takes an awful lot of pressure off your plate right there.
Right?
It really does.
I think too, the other sort of side of that stereotype of, you know, necessarily like with women being the prize, or however you want to look at it, I think there are some roots in ownership and sexism in a
There's some deep misogyny connected in there for sure.
There is, and I feel like I think it is romantic to propose, and I don't think those roots necessarily are still present in today's form of marriage, but I've always thought it was kind of cool.
First of all, it depends. All the roots are just still present everywhere, depending on who you're talking to. But
no, that's true.
I thought it was really interesting. One of the stories that it was in this article, it talked about how one of the guys that did say yes, then later though was not telling the story as it actually happened, and that is interesting because that's a pride and an ego thing.
Yes, it is.
And again, that's probably where communication matters.
Yeah, so he had gone on to tell all his friends that like he did the proposing, and so this, you know, rubbed his fiance the wrong way, where she was like, "Hey, like you said this was cool, we were on equal footing, you know, feminism," and turns out not 100% true, or he wasn't 100% honest with himself, or maybe he thought he'd be cooler with it than he was.
Some reservations about that. Listen. Again, if you're not talking to the person you're with, if you're not communicating with the people in your life, you're just going to have some uncomfortable situations, and there's no way around that. You're going to save yourself a lot of heartache, a lot of arguments, a lot of hurt feelings if you talk to the person you're in love with.
Yes. So I just thought it was interesting. I wonder if we will see more of a shift eventually of women taking a knee and proposing. I think like I said, I've always thought it was kind of cool. So maybe if you have proposed to your men, ladies, let us know how it goes. Like, let us know how it went.
Not for nothing, but I will tell you, guys every once in a while like to be doted over.
That's
like,
the other side of the stereotype, is that
like, what?
We're always like, what do we get?
You want me?
We're Or like, what do we get men? Do they like flowers? Do they like this? Like, what kind of little gifts do men like? So I feel like it's nice to make your man feel appreciated too. So I think it doesn't have to be taboo. I think we're still in taboo territory, but I hope that maybe that taboo will fade away as years go on, and I'll look back
change,
and say, when I was a
everything
young
adjusts.
lass, it was different. So, like I said, we want to hear from you on this topic as well. I think it's very interesting to see how this maybe changes going forward. But coming up, we've got more interesting topics of conversation, because it's not a Tuesday without a great debate. We'll get to that on the way back.